someone comes in and then let's just say that they were here for a shoulder issue. So they come in and they say, hey, I have this shoulder issue. And I'm like, for sure we can help you, but just remember that your body's gonna do the healing. We don't do the healing. Your body knows how to fix itself. So we start taking care of them. We start adjusting them. This is one of my favorite clients to take care of, by the way. And so she starts coming in, and on her way out of the office, she starts having a conversation with another client and their family who's coming in, their friends. She's a realtor for them. And so they're chatting about her results, and she's like, yeah, my shoulder isn't bugging me anymore. I'm gonna try to get my husband in here. And as she's out there talking, she had this realization that, oh, I haven't taken my preventative migraine medication for like the last 4 weeks. Like, it's been sitting on my countertop right by my sink, and I haven't even thought about taking it, and I haven't had a migraine. And I used to get multiple a week. And she's like, that's so interesting. It didn't happen until I started coming here and getting adjusted. So the question is, why is that the case? It's not the case because we wanted to address her migraine. She didn't even tell us that she had migraines. But when we wake up the brain controls everything more efficiently, and her body will start to take care of itself and reverse those symptoms, because symptoms are there to tell us that there's a problem. And so much like if you're gonna drive a car and your check engine light came on in your car, I don't think anybody would just be like, let me just get a piece of black tape, like black electrical tape, and just stick it over the check engine light. Problem fixed, check engine light's not on anymore. That's not how it works. Most doctors ignore the one system that controls every other system, every cell, tissue, organ in your entire body, and that is the nervous system. And what I see often, and again, there's no good, bad, right, or wrong, right? It's just the frame of reference that you're looking at the body through, is there are doctors out there in the typical Western model. There's a podiatrist, and there's someone who focuses on the knees, and they're an orthopedist, and there's someone who focuses on the kidneys. But the problem is that a lot of these specialties, when they are trained, they're trained just in the system that they are going to focus on. So while it's great to have a niche, where I think a lot of practitioners miss the boat, and this is holistic and otherwise, is that they don't look at the body as a whole. So what I think is critical is understanding and realizing that the brain controls every cell, every tissue, every organ in the entire body. The body is designed to communicate with itself and function in synchronicity with itself. And so if we just look at the heart, for instance, and we say, okay, hey, someone has high blood pressure, or they have arrhythmia, or they have some other issue with their heart, but we don't ask the question of why is that there in the first place, and we get this like reductionist mechanistic approach. So what people often miss is this idea of this vitalistic approach that says the body is self-healing, self-regulating, self-maintaining. And when I say self-regulating, self-maintaining, what I mean is that the whole system has to work together. We can't piece out the parts. So for instance, if my body releases stress hormones, and we think about what stress hormones do, the first two things stress hormones are gonna do is increase heart rate, increase blood pressure. So if I just go in and look at the heart, but I don't ever address why the body was releasing stress hormones to increase heart rate and increase blood pressure in the first place, then I miss the cause. If I go in and I look at someone and I say, oh, yep, you have constipation issues, let's give you this medication, or let's do this surgery, or let's do this endoscopy, or whatever the thing is that they want to do, but we don't address, well, why is the digestive issue there in the first place? Then again, we miss the cause. And so every time what we're looking for in our office is going back to how is the brain communicating to every cell, every tissue, every organ in the entire body. And again, it's no one's fault. It's just a level of training that people had. And so I think it's so interesting when I'll sit with people who are neurologists or people who have been to neurologists, and they're like, how come nobody ever told me that movement of the joints of the spine is what wakes up my brain? And it's because they have a specific focus on looking at the nervous system, but not the connection between the spine and the brain, or not the connection between the muscles and the set point of what the brain is telling those muscles to do in the first place. And so big picture, again, it comes down to, are we addressing symptoms? Are we reducing the body down to pieces and parts in a mechanistic approach? Or are we taking a more vitalistic approach that would say the body all works together, it's self-healing, self-regulating, self-maintaining? When your brain and your nervous system communicate properly with the rest of your body, your entire body will change. So if you think about the way in which our body is organized, every cell has to talk to every other cell. So our entire body needs to know what everything else is doing in order to stick together and work together as a team. So we can't survive without that. So the brain and the nervous system are responsible for orchestrating all of that healing, all of that communication. So it's just a communication highway. And so the way I see it is that the reason that our body heals so much more efficiently when the brain is talking to the body is because the brain controls every function in the system. Very few people would link their headaches, their stress, their pain, any issues that they're having to their nervous system. Because most people think that if I have digestive issues, that's a digestive problem. It's a problem with my stomach. If I have headaches, it's a problem with my head. But all of those things can come from a million different places. Like a digestive issue could be because of the food you eat. It could be because your nervous system's stressed out. Remember that there's two branches of the brain. There's a fight or flight branch, a protection branch, and there's a rest and digest branch. Keyword digest. So in fight or flight, we turn off the digestive system. And so when I sit with people and I have conversations with them, I always ask the question, I say, okay, I know you have these things going on that you told me about, but is there anything else you have going on, even if you didn't think chiropractic care could help with it? And the reason that I ask that question is because if we address the brain and we do a good job at it, everything else should take care of itself, because the body knows how to heal itself. God gave us the gifts of healing. And so whether it's headaches or digestive issues or pain or something else, if we don't address the brain, we miss the cause. And the cause is literally a stressed out nervous system. And what's so cool is, like, when we talk about stress specifically, if we have a stress that we don't fight or run away from, our brain will let loose more stress hormones in our system, which will increase our pain, will increase our issues. So what I love, this is why we talk about the 4 Ps, posture, presence, productivity, profit, is because when we're adjusting people, part of what we're doing with them is allowing them a new capacity to deal with stress. So their brain says, I actually don't need to operate in a fight or flight protective tear down state. I need to operate in a rest and digest healing state. And to see it happen all the time. Like I'll give you a perfect example of this. We have a kiddo right now who is 11 months old. So his whole life, he's hated the car seat. It takes mom and dad wrestling him down to change his diaper every time they have to change his diaper. And you and I both know littles, we're changing diapers multiple times a day, lots of stress. Can't drive anywhere. And so they're wondering, like, why is all this, like, he just seems so stressed out and he's only 10 months old. So we started adjusting him, and they're taking trips to see their family up in Rancho Cucamonga where they couldn't take those trips before. They're not able, they don't have to wrestle him as much to change his diaper. He's laying on his back on his own now. So, like, why is that the case? It's not the case because we did something special to him, but he had so much stress in his system that it put him in a fight or flight state, and he was resistant to being in, like, a more relaxed state, on his back, whatever. And so, again, we're just addressing how is the brain operating at 100% in fight or flight or rest and digest. When I was in chiropractic school, so I was still a student, and I was working with a girl who was diagnosed with stage 4 kidney cancer for the second time, 24 years old. Her nickname is Chachi. So Chachi started coming to see me because one of her friends, who was also in chiropractic school with me, is like, you just should probably, like, try chiropractic care and see Daniel in clinic, and he'll get you set up and it'll probably help with your back. So when I meet her, I find out she'd had all this trauma, stage 4 kidney cancer, diagnosed for the second time. So she was told 2 years prior that she was in complete remission, she was all good, she was healed, and then she woke up one morning peeing blood and debilitating low back pain. So this is someone, like I said, 24 years old. Her favorite things were to read and write poetry. Couldn't sit, like, long enough to even sit and read, and, like, she had to be flat on her back in bed or she was so uncomfortable. So, like, difficult to read, couldn't write at all, couldn't go to work, so, like, lost her job. She just had all this stress and all this trauma. So we started working with her, and the cool thing, so one adjustment that I did not touch her low back, I just touched her upper neck. Back pain, 90% gone from one session. So fast forward, she's seeing me multiple times a week, but she's also seeing her other specialists for her cancer, and they're giving her medications and doing all the stuff. But pretty quickly, she's like, hey, I'm not gonna be able to come in today because I have to go get more blood tests. And then she's like, I don't know why, but they're having me order more blood tests. So she starts missing all these visits. And I'm like, hey, tell me what's going on. And she's like, I don't know, they won't tell me, but they're all confused about my blood work. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, they think I'm getting better and like all my markers are declining. And she's like, but they can't figure out why. So they just want to keep taking more blood. So she's doing all these blood work, she's doing all this stuff. And meanwhile, she's getting adjusted. The only thing I changed with her, she was drinking like 8 cups of coffee a day. She's just completely tanked. And so I said, we gotta stop drinking so much coffee because we gotta take it easy on your kidneys. Let's go down to 1 cup. So that's the only thing we changed with her. And we're getting her adjusted multiple times a week. So in 3 months, she goes from stage 4 kidney cancer. The only option is she's on the kidney removal list, transplant list. And she's like, I hope I get this kidney. That's a whole conversation basically every time. They start doing all this blood work with her. And finally they get to the point where they're like, hey, we have this specialist in New Jersey. Your body somehow miraculously has walled off this tumor on your kidney and we don't need to remove it. We can actually go in. There's only one person at that time who could do this surgery, I guess. And so she ended up going to New Jersey to get this tumor removed off of her kidney and didn't have to be on the transplant list. So if we go stage 4 cancer, renal carcinoma, to body completely walling it off, that's probably the craziest thing that I've experienced. And the best part about that whole thing is I wrote and published the case study of exactly what happened with her and exactly what we did. And while the claim in the case study is not that we cured her cancer, again, it's just improving her quality of life and getting her to a place where otherwise she wouldn't have been, which is pretty cool. That's the power of the body though, you know? And it's like, literally anything is possible on a long enough timeline if you give the body the right tools to heal itself. Anything is possible. All we do is wake up the brain, and when the brain is functioning at 100%, the body functions at 100%. It's so simple.